Discover 7 incredible female traits that are touchingly life-changing and unexpectedly seductive. Every day, Sarah served coffee at the Maple Leaf, where the air was thick with the aroma of warm pancakes and the chatter of neighbors. She was a single mother, fighting to build something strong for her 2 children, Robbie and Lily. Her calloused hands worked tirelessly, yet they told stories of resilience and the love that kept her going. Behind tired eyes, a fierce determination burned brightly, igniting the fire for her family that wouldn't flicker out easily. As she refilled mugs at a table of farmers, discussing the brutal costs of crops, a warm smile spread across her face. This was not just a job, it was her second home. She savored the laughter, the shared stories, the kindness of small-town life. Yet, just as she found comfort, Mark Thompson strolled in, a slick man with a designer suit. His charisma was infectious, but his intentions smirked with menace. He spoke of progress, but Sarah felt a cold wind at the door. Here was a man ready to bulldoze over decades of warmth, memories, and friendships for his corporate vision. "I'll transform this town," he declared one evening, his voice smooth as silk, "make it modern, efficient." Sarah felt the whispers of judgment already creeping in, as folks grew uneasy, believing those small-town values were expendable. That night, Sarah lay awake. Her heart raced, the ghosts of her past swirled in her mind like a storm. Her father had made sacrifices once, big deals and closed doors, all for success. She couldn't let that same cold ambition seep into her life. She had to fight to protect the love that rooted her. Would she stand as a pillar of strength for her children, or crumble beneath the weight of fear? At the next town hall meeting, fueled by the spirit of motherhood, Sarah stood up, her voice a beacon amidst the tumult. "We can't lose who we are for shiny buildings. These people are more than numbers," she said, her heart pounding. The audience hung on every word, some nodding in agreement, while others turned skeptical eyes towards her. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The moment thrummed with tension, as her courage ebbed and flowed. The community quarreled, a fracture building between those who cherished old ways and those who longed for change. Fear crept into Sarah's heart, whispering that her father's abandonment could be her future as well. Did ambition have to come at a cost? But there was resolve, too. She organized a rally, hoping to unite her community around their shared love for their town. The nights she spent planning began filling the diner with life, laughter, memories, and ties strengthening. Friends turned into allies, sipping coffee and piecing their dreams together. Then, just as hope surged, disaster struck. Her son Robbie made a reckless choice that placed him in danger, and her world crashed. Standing at the heart of the storm, her family and the town needed her more than ever. Would she falter or rise to the occasion? As tension smoldered and the stakes grew, the question hung heavy in the air: could she hold together both her children's future and her precious community as chaos wrapped its hands around them? With the rally approaching, answers remained tantalizingly out of reach, leaving Sarah's heart aching and her mind racing. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she stood at the foot of her suburban front porch. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows that intertwined with the worries that wrapped around her. In one hand, she juggled her phone, buzzing with messages about the rally. In the other, she held the swirling emotions of a mother desperate to protect her son. Robbie had always been impulsive, but after last night's incident, a darkness lingered over him that she couldn't shake. He'd taken off on his bike without a helmet, racing toward the edge of town, where rumors of trouble had begun to brew. He was shaken, but she'd seen that reckless spark in his eyes before. Teenage bravado, she'd whispered just a few days earlier, dismissing it as youthful, harmless energy. Now, She faced the consequences of her underestimation. In the days leading up to the rally, Sarah felt the weight of expectation settle heavily on her shoulders. In the diner, the townsfolk tossed glances of disdain her way as they whispered about Robbie's recent choices. The laughter that once echoed through the spaces between booths had faded to murmurings of judgment, and she stood in the eye of the storm, trying to shield her children from the chaos. "Mom," Lily's voice broke her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. The little girl was drawing pictures on the kitchen table, her crayons scattered like seeds of hope. "Can we go to the park later?" Though Sarah longed to say yes, the reality of her responsibilities gnawed at her. "Sweetheart, I need to finish up some things for the rally," she explained, running a hand through her hair, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. "But can you be there for me?" Lily's eyes widened, filled with innocence and trust. The question hung in the air, hanging heavy like a cloud ready to burst. Sarah crouched beside her daughter, their eyes locking. "Of course, darling, I promise. Just give me a little time." Yet, inside her, a battle raged. Could she really give both her children the attention they needed while fighting for their town? As doubt crept closer, she felt the weight of her past pressing against her, memories of her father slipping away in a gust of ambition. The thought twisted deep in her chest. The day of the rally arrived, buzz and chatter filling the small community park as folks came out to stand shoulder to shoulder. The vibrancy of the crowd stirred her courage, but it did little to hush the fears bubbling up. Her heart split between the pride she felt and the prospect of embarrassment if she failed to make a stand. In this moment, she could feel Mark's presence looming, his smooth talk already swirling in the air like an unwanted wind. As she approached the podium, the familiar faces of friends and acquaintances flickered before her, their expressions mixed with curiosity and apprehension. "Today is not just about saving the maple leaf," she declared, her voice rising above the hum of the crowd. "It's about saving ourselves, preserving our identity." The crowd nodded, but she sensed pushback even beyond Mark. What if they didn't support her? What if they turned? The stakes climbed higher as she stepped into a chasm of uncertain hopes. Behind her, she caught a glimpse of Robbie, standing alone at the edge of the gathering. His face reflected a turbulent blend of guilt and defiance. Was she leading the way, or was she dragging him deeper into despair? As Sarah prepared to speak from the depths of her experience, she felt the weight of her dual role as a mother and a community leader pressing on her like a vice. Would her resolve shine through, or was this just another fracture waiting to happen? With the eyes of her children upon her, the question loomed: could she truly reconcile her love for them with the fight for the community's soul? As she opened her mouth to speak, the answer teetered on the edge of her lips, eager to be born. She took a deep breath, the air thick with anticipation and anxiety. The murmurs in the crowd quieted, a stillness settling like a blanket over the gathered souls. They were all looking at her now, their hopes hanging on her words. Sarah could almost see the thread connecting them, stretching taut between her and the community she loved. "What I need you to remember today," she began, her voice trembling slightly but gaining strength with each word, "is that we are more than just a part of the maple leaf. We are a family. Every one of you matters. Every story shared here counts. And together, we can shape what this place becomes." The crowd stirred with murmurs of agreement, some faces lighting up, while others showed uncertainty. But as she scanned the sea of eyes, Sarah only focused on her own children. Lily was waving a crayon, full of energy. Robbie's gaze was locked on her, a flicker of determination breaking through his earlier guilt. This was for them. This was for all of them. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Mark pushing his way through the crowd, a confident swagger in his step. That familiar knot of irritation twisted in her stomach. "Let us not forget," he called out, loud enough to cut through the atmosphere she'd worked to build. "What good is tradition if it holds us back? Change is inevitable, people." A wave of tension rippled through the crowd. Some nodded at Mark's words, as if seeking reassurance in his easy, persuasive charm. Sarah felt a rush of defiance surge within her, propelling her forward. She had to fight for this, not just for the maple leaf, but for every family that stood with her. Change isn't just about moving forward, she argued, her voice stronger now, it's about understanding where we come from. It's about cherishing the roots that made us who we are. We don't have to choose between the past and the future. This time, a roar of approval erupted, the crowd shifting, leaning toward her. Sarah caught the glimmer of hope reflected in Lily's eyes, spurring her on. Listen. It's about protecting our memories, safeguarding the stories that define us. When we cherish our identity, we don't resist change. We shape it. Her heart soared, catching some of the vibrant energy swirling in the air, yet beneath those hopeful cheers, doubt still simmered. Could she really convince those who leaned towards Mark? Would Robbie feel trapped in her ambitions, forever bearing the weight of her fight? Then, a soft chime of laughter broke her thoughts. Lily stumbled as she leaned to reach for her crayons. The innocence of that moment tugged at Sarah's heart. Life was fragile, a balance of chaotic colors and familiar shapes. When the clamor finally subsided, it was clear Sarah's words struck a chord. People were nodding, eyeing each other as if awakening from a collective dream. She could feel the tide shifting. They believed, but then, she felt someone shift in the crowd behind her. A familiar figure appeared, standing just out of view. It was Robbie. The warmth she'd drawn from their bond flickered as she noticed him moving away, retreating toward the park's edge. Robbie! She cried, a sense of urgency prickling her skin, transforming her mounting resolve into a lunging fear. Without thinking, she broke from the podium, pushing through the crowd. As concerned whispers followed her, she could only focus on reaching her son. He was slipping away again, the darkness tugging at him like quicksand. Did he hear her? Did he care? For every movement she made, the world around her faded. She had to reach him before it was too late. What was waiting in the shadows for him? In the distance, she caught him pausing, glancing over his shoulder as if weighing the ripples of his choices. What would she say to bring him back? And could she convince him that their lives weren't at odds but woven together in this fight? As she reached out, hand trembling, the question loomed larger than ever: could she save them both from the paths they were on? The crowd blurred as Sarah pushed through. Her heart thudded in her chest. Each step felt heavier. Robbie was just a few feet away, but that space felt like a chasm. The voices around her softened, replaced by the rush of her own breath. Every ounce of her focus locked on her son. Robbie! She called again, but her voice cracked, a thin thread of fear weaving through her words. She reached out as if hoping to pull him back just by the force of her will. He paused, the shadows of uncertainty tracing his features. There was a flicker of pain in his eyes, a familiar battle she feared he was losing. Sarah's heart ached. This was more than just a moment. It was everything. Please, listen to me, she continued, softer now. She was no longer just fighting Mark's arguments or rallying the community. This was a fight for her boy, for his spirit. You're not alone in this. Whatever you're feeling, it's okay. But don't walk away from me. Don't walk away from us. Robbie turned fully, the hesitance in his stance mirrored in the tightening of her chest. But Mom, you don't get it, he said, his words sharp, as if carved out of frustration. I can't be the reason everything changes for you. I don't want to hold you back. I'm scared you'll regret it. The ache inside her felt raw. Regret? She echoed, shaken. I could never regret you. You are part of me, and this community. We fight together, always. She was breathing hard now, grappling to make him see it. What matters is how we evolve, as a family. And that means we all have a voice. Yours matters the most. A breeze stirred the leaves nearby, rustling them gently, like the reassuring whisper of a mother. Robbie's expression, however, was still troubled. But what if we lose ourselves in all this? His voice trembled, a layer of longing and fear woven into it. Losing ourselves? Sarah stepped closer, her heart racing. The depth of our roots is what grounds us, Robbie. Growing doesn't mean forgetting where we came from. We make this place stronger by holding on to each other. You're not a burden. You're my hope. You make me want to fight harder. His gaze dropped for a moment, fate hanging silent in the air between them. It felt like they were suspended in time, both searching for a way back to that heartbeat of connection. Suddenly, a loud voice broke through the other buzzing sounds. The very prominence of Mark's discontent raised in the crowd. We can't afford to cling to what's familiar when there's so much potential waiting for us. He swept his gaze across the crowd, eyes like fire. We can embrace progress. It's not about abandoning each other but about moving forward. Sarah's heart sank. He had their attention again. Robbie, she urged, panic giving way to determination. Don't let him drown out what matters. We're not just here to survive. We're here to thrive. Together. As she reached out her hand, he hesitated once more. But then, just as she feared the bridge would collapse between them, he looked up, met her eyes, and took a tentative step forward. Mom, he said, a whisper grounding the chaos swirling around them. What if we don't know where this change will take us? She felt a rush of warmth spill into the space around them as she recalled all the stories shared, all the families gathered to support one another. Then we'll discover it together. We'll learn, grow and become who we're meant to be as one. The energy shifted. The crowd began to hum with a nervous anticipation, whispers of curiosity bubbling up around them. Could Sarah gather the love and strength of the community to pull them through this unknown? But in that moment, she realized their struggles were just the beginning. Could she face not only the paths they had forged but the unfolding future that lay ahead with the same courage that had brought them here? As Robbie hesitated, their eyes locked, and Sarah felt that fragile thread of hope teeter on the brink. There was still a long way to go, and they needed to blaze their trail. What awaited them on the other side of all this turbulence? As the anticipation in the air thickened, Sarah felt a shifting tide. The crowd swelled around them, buzzing with voices filled with doubt and hope. She stayed rooted to the spot, the world narrowing to just her and Robbie. Please, just take my hand, she urged softly, feeling the weight of her words. Beneath the confusion, she caught a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. The flickers of fear were still present, but there was something else, maybe a flicker of trust. Robbie glanced back at the crowd, uncertainty writ large on his face. The collective will of their community was vying for his allegiance. Still, the longing for connection with his mother sparked a fierce battle within his heart. What if they don't understand? He murmured, his voice barely audible. They may not, she replied, shaking her head gently. But we can help them see, help them feel what we feel. We can't silence our fears, but we can learn to overcome them together. Taking a deep breath, Sarah saw Robbie processing her words, the struggle ebbing away in him, just for a moment. At that instant, a hush swept through the crowd. Mark's voice rang out again, louder and more intrusive, cutting through the silence. You think clinging to tradition will save us? We need to break the chains that bind us. The future waits for no one. His craggy features were animated, riling the masses around him. Sarah felt her heart race, every pulse echoing her urgency to reach Robbie. Focus on me, not him, she whispered, willing her gaze to be magnetic, inviting. We have the answers within us. Robbie shifted his weight, pulling his thoughts back to her. But how do we convince them? How do we change their minds? His voice wavered, but there was a determination creeping in. We tell our stories. She felt a surge of conviction. We gather everyone, share what this place means to us, how we've grown, how we are family. We show them that change doesn't mean losing who we are. Robbie's brow furrowed, but then his hand, almost instinctively, reached out toward hers. In that delicate moment, Sarah felt a rush of hope. Their hands met, a warm connection that sent ripples through her weary heart. I'm afraid, he admitted, squeezing her hand tighter. But something feels different about this, like maybe it's worth the risk. With a smile breaking through her anxious facade, she nodded. It is. Change is scary, but you'll never be alone. Together, we can face anything. The crowd charged with renewed energy, voices rising and falling like waves crashing on a shore. People were starting to react, glancing curiously at Sarah and Robbie. They were witnesses to this intimacy, a raw moment that pulled at heartstrings. Daring to step farther into the light of the crowd, Sarah raised their hands, still clasped together. "This is love," she proclaimed, her voice now commanding as it wrapped around them. "This is strength. If we stand divided, we will fall." But together the murmurs began transforming into nods and murmurs of support. Faces lit with recognition, the crowd began to shift in their stance, engrossed by the image of unity before them. Suddenly, Mark's voice boomed again. "Don't let nostalgia cloud your judgment. This isn't about love, it's about survival." But Sarah felt it then, the energy of change electrifying the air. This time, she didn't shrink back. Rather, she spun that energy into courage, standing taller. "You're wrong, Mark. Survival is only meaningful with love at its core." The tide of voices began to sway. Unbeknownst to them, the onlookers were starting to understand the truth, that hope can be woven through even the most uncertain of futures. But uncertainty still loomed, and as Sarah scanned the crowd, she wondered, would they accept a new vision, or would fear win out in the end? And just as the tension reached a breaking point, Robbie's hand tightened in hers. "Maybe we can change things, but what if it costs us everything?" The question hung like a weight between them. The answer lay ahead, drenched in shadows and light. Would they have the strength to embrace it? As the crowd held its breath, the next chapter of their lives awaited, and Sarah felt the embers of possibility ignite once more. The murmur of the crowd escalated, swirling around Sarah and Robbie like an impending storm. Their fingers intertwined, weaved together with hopes and fears that seemed to pulse at the heart of the gathering. It unnerved her how the air crackled with anticipation and tension, each breath filled with the weight of unasked questions and prospect of change. "Let us show them," Sarah whispered, her resolve hardening. "Show them that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice we all have to make." Robbie's eyes searched hers, uncertainty still flickering. What if we're wrong?" A voice pierced the dense atmosphere, almost mocking. "What if you lose everything you hold dear for an ideal that may never come true, Sarah?" Mark stood, fists clenched, his posture a bulwark against her optimism. "You're asking them to throw away their safety for a dream." Sarah felt the tug of conflict inside her. "A life without hope is a dead end, Mark. Change isn't a threat. It's a chance to grow," she shouted back, rallying strength from the depths of her being. She sensed movement in the crowd, curiosity, wavering loyalties. Faces flashed with uncertainty but softened with the echo of her words. "Look out there," she said, waving her free hand towards the restless sea of people. "Look into those eyes. Each of them has a story of struggle, of love, of what this place means to them." Robbie's grip tightened, his apprehension palpable. "But will they listen?" he asked, fear lacing his comments. "They will," she replied, her voice resonating with unyielding confidence. "If we let them, they will listen." Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward, still holding Robbie's hand like a lifeline. The crowd shifted, hundreds of faces reflecting the turmoil within them. "If you're afraid of losing what you know, remember what you have already gained." She took a moment, letting her words settle. "This community has nurtured us. Together, we've built memories, friendships, and even families. We can't betray our roots, but we can grow new branches." Mark scoffed, arms crossed defiantly, but some in the crowd murmured their agreement. Sarah could see the magic of acceptance beginning to flicker. With each statement of solidarity, she felt the collective heartbeat strengthen, a rhythm that matched her own. "Think of the joy we've shared." Celebrate our seasons of life. We have the power to shape a future where both love and survival thrive. But we must unite to take that leap. The murmurs grew louder, their uncertainty morphing into intrigue, and Sarah let the resolve wash over her. You have voices. Use them. Share your stories. One by one, people stepped forward, voices timid at first. An older woman spoke of the generations that came before, how love had anchored their struggles. A young man shared the hope he felt for the unformed futures. Sarah felt each voice stitched together the fabric of their community, creating a tapestry of connection. As more stories unfurled, she turned to Robbie, who stood amazed, his expression a blend of astonishment and dawning confidence. Look at them. He breathed, excitement bubbling to the surface. They're starting to believe. Her heart swelled. Together, we can show the strength in our vulnerability. We may not have all the answers, but we have each other. The energy swelled in the air, igniting belief where fear had dwelled. Just as some began to cheer, Mark interjected once again, his voice cracking with desperation. You can't just sway them with words, actions are what matter. You will lead them to the brink, and they won't be able to turn back. But within that charged moment, something shifted. Sarah and Robbie stood as a beacon in the tumult. There was solidarity now, a growing conviction sparking in the hearts of everyone around. But deep within, an unsettling doubt remained. Would they still stand strong when the first challenge arose? As the crowd swayed under the powerful embrace of change, Sarah turned to Robbie, moments before the noise crescendos. Are you ready for what comes next? Before he could answer, the ground trembled beneath them. A sudden reminder of the fragile world they inhabited. The chance to reshape their future loomed, but will it be met with unity or chaos? The ground shook again, a deeper tremor this time that reverberated through Sarah's bones. The once vibrant energy around them turned to a murmur of fear and confusion. She could feel Robbie's grip tighten even more, his breathing quickening as anxiety washed over him. The crowd recoiled slightly but then surged forward again, an instinctive response to the quaking earth. This was their moment, a choice to either stand together or scatter in panic. Stay together. Sarah shouted. Hold on to each other. Don't let fear take control. Her voice cut through the panic. She felt it, the tremors beneath their feet reflecting the uncertainty of their choices. They stood on the edge of a decision that could reshape everything. The crowd looked to her, searching for reassurance, but she felt just as unsteady as they did. The weight of Mark's words lingered, echoing in her mind how easily hope could slip away when faced with real danger. She glanced at Robbie, his face drawn with worry, and for a moment, doubt gnawed at her resolve. Remember what we just shared, she urged, her voice softening. We've faced struggles together before. We can face this too, as a community. Every quiver is a reminder of why we're here, because we believe, not just in love, but in each other. Slowly, one after another, people began to nod. Sarah recognized the faces in the crowd, friends, neighbors, families woven together in the fabric of their small town. Here were the lovers who painted their memories on these streets and the children who played under the sunlit skies, building dreams as big as the horizon. Let us keep going. For every heart that beats with hope, let us unite. Her voice soared, igniting sparks of determination in the crowd. Mark's disdain was palpable, yet even he couldn't deny the undeniable shift in the atmosphere. There was something resilient rising above the fear, something undeniably powerful. As the tremor subsided to a gentle rumble, Sarah took a moment to catch her breath, her heart racing with anticipation. This is our chance, she said, gazing out at the many faces staring back at her. Change isn't the enemy, it's the catalyst. It's us who shape our future together. Robbie exhaled deeply, the tension easing in his shoulders. You're right, Sarah. It's about trusting one another. We can't lead if we don't believe in the strength of our bonds. The crowd seemed to surge with renewed energy, voices overlapping as people began to share their stories once again, driven by a newfound sense of unity. But just as the atmosphere shifted, settling into an embrace of shared strength, a loud crack echoed from the center of their community. All heads turned in alarm as a towering old oak tree, the sturdy guardian of their park, a symbol of their past, snapped and crashed to the ground, creating a spray of leaves and splintering branches. Gasps filled the air, panic flickered anew in the eyes of the crowd. The smell of fresh earth mixed with splintered wood filled Sarah's senses. This was a symbol of their stability, now toppled, like their faith in the future, now challenged. "Look!" someone shouted. "The tree's roots are still intact. It can grow again." Sarah felt her blood run cold, but something inside her surged. "We can rebuild. We are still here. This is not the end, it is a reason to fight harder for what we believe in." Would they rally together, or would fear drive them apart once more? How strong was their commitment to change? As hope surged even in the wake of disaster, Sarah could only wonder, could they truly face the deeper challenges headed their way? The air was thick with uncertainty, but after that distant crash, hope flickered like a candle in the dark. Sarah looked into the faces surrounding her, searching for the spark she needed to ignite. People were shaking, their eyes wide, but there was something else, a determination beginning to unfurl. "Friends," she called out, "this tree stood for years, did it not? Through storms, seasons, and heartaches, it overlooked us, reminding us that roots run deep." Each word she spoke was met with nods, and their energy surged around her like a tide. "We have our roots too, our families, our friendships. We can be like that tree. This is our opportunity to grow again." Robbie, still gripping her hand, squeezed it tightly. His reassurance lent her strength. "What we have built here is worth saving," he echoed, looking out at the crowd. "Let this be a reminder. We can reform, and together, we can rise." As if in response, one brave voice from the back called, "For every community that's been shaken, we can rebuild stronger." It was Melinda, whose laughter had always filled the park with joy. Her words ignited an emotional wave through the crowd, and sections of them began to take a step closer to where the fallen tree lay. The echo of memories flooded Sarah's mind: summer picnics, children climbing its branches, couples carving their initials into its rough bark. This tree had been their witness, and it felt sacrilegious to see it hurt. But rather than despairing, the sentimental value transformed into a mission. "Let us gather branches," Sarah urged, her voice now carrying a passionate fervor. "Let us turn this moment into our catalyst for change. We can use the wood to make benches, playgrounds, things that symbolize love and resilience." The crowd hesitated momentarily, but one step turned into two. Slowly, they began to move toward the fallen oak, drawn in by the dreams Sarah painted for them. Some cried out to share their ideas. Others volunteered to gather supplies, to begin piecing their lives back together. Robbie turned to Sarah, awe in his eyes. "You've built a fire in them," he said breathlessly. "What did you do?" "I reminded them of what we still have," she replied, a quiet determination in her voice. "Maybe hope isn't just what we cling to but what we act on." With renewed energy, the crowd began to split up, some huddling together to gather fallen branches, while others began creating plans to plant the next tree, one strong enough to withstand whatever came next. Laughter broke the tension as children dashed amongst the older folk, their spirits unclipped by the earlier panic, but then, a voice rose above the rest, a firm tone that commanded attention. It was Mark, standing apart from everyone, his expression darkening. "You're all going about this the wrong way. A tree won't fix the cracks in our foundation. It's just a distraction." The murmurs of the crowd fell silent. Sarah felt the air grow heavy. They had fought against recognizing fear, only to face the harsh reality of losing an emblematic piece of their lives at Mark's words. "What do you suggest, Mark?" she challenged, nerves steadying her stance. He took a step forward, his face a mix of anger and hurt. "You can't see it. This is just the beginning of something much worse. We need a plan, or we'll all be swept away. The unease radiated among the crowd. Would they accept his truth or lean into the newfound strength they had begun to cultivate? As Sarah looked around, she sensed their resolve wavering. She knew this moment could tip either way. Could they resist the fear he embodied, or would they let it splinter their gathering? Together, we can face whatever comes, she called, desperation swelling within her. Our roots run deep, but just as she spoke, another tremor interrupted her plea, more powerful than before. The ground quaked violently beneath them, igniting a shared panic anew, and in that heartbeat of chaos, Sarah's heart raced into the unknown. What next would they face? Would fear fracture them, or could they hold on just a little longer? The ground shook again, louder this time, and a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Sarah stumbled, narrowly avoiding a fall. The faces around her morphed from raw determination to sheer panic as they clutched each other, seeking stability in a world abruptly tilted off its axis. Dust and debris danced in the air, leaving a bitter taste in her mouth. "Stay close," she shouted, trying to anchor her own trembling heart. "We can handle this." But Mark stepped back, visibly unsettling the crowd with his wide-eyed dread. "This isn't just an earthquake. It's a sign something worse is coming." His voice dripped with urgency, knitting eyebrows into a tense frown. Another tremor shook the earth, and the distant sound of cracking wood echoed ominously. A part of Sarah's heart broke at the sound. Was it the old oak? Her mind flickered with memories, the shelter it provided, the whispers of secrets shared beneath its canopy, now teetering on the brink of annihilation. She was losing hope along with that tree. Robbie's voice broke through her thoughts. "We need to huddle together, stronger together." He reached out, his open hand inviting others to join. "No more division. We need each other now more than ever." As if on cue, the community began inching together, embedding their resolve deep into the soil beneath their feet. Sarah stepped closer to Robbie, catching glimpses of familiar faces around her, the bakery lady, the history teacher, families she had grown close to through countless movie nights and holiday gatherings. And in that moment, an ember of hope flared again. "Let us remember what we've built," Sarah added, her voice ringing out like a beacon. "Every memory, every laugh, every shared meal. We are more than this moment. We are connected by more than concrete and trees." Mark scoffed, shaking his head. "But memories won't keep us safe. We need shelter, we need hope." A voice cried out from the crowd, causing a ripple of shared distraction. It was Melinda again, her sunny disposition fighting through the fear. "We need to believe in something bigger. If the tree won't stand, let us hold each other up." With fiery eyes, she turned to Sarah. "It's like you said, let us find the branches that are still strong. Together, we can build something new." This ignited something deep in Sarah. Her heart raced, not from fear but from a dawning realization. The tree might symbolize their past, but it didn't have to dictate their future. "We can create a new place, right here," she cried, "a sanctuary for us to thrive. We can utilize this wood to stand against whatever comes." A chorus of cheers broke from the crowd, drowning out the trepidation echoing in the air. They rallied together, gathering where they could, infused with purpose. With every arm extended to grab a branch, every hopeful word tossed like seeds into the air, they transformed their fear into determination. But another rumble broke the momentum, shaking the ground like an angry warning. It sent a wave of uncertainty through the crowd, gripping Sarah's gut. Would their feelings of camaraderie hold after this? Then, from the back, a scream pierced the air, a child, wide-eyed and fearful. Instinctually, Sarah turned, her heart leaping into her throat. "Mommy!" The child clung to a fallen branch, unable to see past the chaos. Deep down, Sarah knew she needed to act quickly. "Grab my hand," she shouted, sprinting toward the terrified little girl, ready to face whatever tremor awaited them both. But could she reach her in time? Would she be enough to calm the storm that raged around them? As Sarah dashed through the crowd, her heart pounded fiercely, echoing in her ears like a war drum. The child's wide eyes, fearful and searching, reminded her of all the innocence at stake. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the girl's small hand, a lifeline in the chaos. "I've got you. Hold on tight." With a firm grip, Sarah pulled the child close, her instincts taking over. Around them, the world trembled as if mirroring the fear that swirled through the entire gathering. She felt the urgency radiating from Robbie, who was already moving to help. Together, they stood strong, united to confront the chaos swirling beyond their control. "Stay close to me," Robbie said, his voice steadying as he took the child's other hand. The fear in his expression melted away, replaced by fierce determination. Something had shifted within him. The crowd parted as Sarah and Robbie moved forward, the little girl tucked protectively between them. Then, a voice rose from the masses, fueled by desperation, "We must leave. It's not safe here." Sarah paused for a moment, glancing around. The suffocating fear was palpable, threading through every whisper exchanged between neighbors. Mark was standing at the edge, arms crossed, eyes narrowed in disbelief as if he could silence them with sheer willpower. "Can't you see?" he shouted, desperation leaking into his tone. "This is all a distraction. We need to think about our survival. Survival without community is no life at all." Sarah shot back, her voice rising like a beacon. "We don't leave our loved ones behind. We fight together." The words rippled out, igniting the embers of resolve smoldering within her neighbors. A murmur swept through the crowd, ripples of courage began to weave into their collective will. "We are family," cried a voice from the back, and another shouted in agreement, "Together, we can weather any storm." Hope surged like a wave, consuming the fear. In that moment, something beautiful blossomed, the collective understanding that their community was worth fighting for. "Hold on to each other," Sarah urged, her heart swelling with pride as people began to grasp each other, forming a human chain of solidarity. The energy radiated through them, banishing the despair that had threatened to consume them. "No matter what happens next, we stay together," she proclaimed. "This is our home. Our roots are intertwined, we are stronger together than apart." The tremors beneath their feet slowed, as if the earth itself was rejuvenated by their unified spirit. The crowd responded, rallying in agreement, their voices entwining into a triumphant chorus. "Together! Together! Together!" Robbie's hand gripped Sarah's, his face painted with astonishment. "Mom, look! They're coming together." Families began emerging from the shadows, gathering around Sarah, drawn by their shared story, their shared struggle. They stood unified, brimming with determination, as the echoes of laughter and heartfelt memories mixed into the air once more. It was not just a moment of resilience, this was a transformation and awakening. Sarah glanced at the little girl by her side, a determined smile breaking through her fear. "See that?" she whispered. "They're fighting for you, for every one of us. We will show them that community is our strongest foundation." Fires of purpose bloomed, warm and bright, pushing back against the worries that gripped them just moments before. This was more than communion, this was a promise to build a future rooted in love and understanding. As they stood there, semblance of unity sparking real change, Mark, standing apart, looked on, jaw clenched. But Sarah could feel the tide shifting against him. The crowd swelled with renewed spirit, rallying not just for survival but for something grander, a legacy for those who would come after. Suddenly, a shudder rolled through the earth again, stronger this time, but it felt different. Instead of fear, it sparked determination. "Remember, friends. We will embrace change. Let it mold us but not define us. We will emerge resilient." Sarah called, matching the tremor with strength. The community echoed back her call, growing louder until it formed a resounding wave of voices that carried through, even shaking the ground beneath their feet. Resilient. 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 In that moment of collective strength and unwavering belief, Sarah realized it wasn't just about fighting change, it was about embracing the journey together, the bonds that grounded them, the courage to adapt, and the joy of creating new memories while honoring the old. And when the dust settled, as laughter filled the air once more, they gathered to rebuild, hands clasped in shared purpose. Sarah looked at Robbie, his eyes shining with pride, and she knew that they had not just transformed a moment, they had changed the very essence of their lives. In the weeks that followed, with community members working in harmony, their new visions blossomed into reality. Together, they built a new playground where the fallen tree once stood, creating a space where laughter would echo, memories would be shared, and families would continue to grow. The maple leaf became more than just a diner, it became a symbol of resilience, love, and community spirit, bustling with renewed life, a testament to what had been fought for and what would continue to thrive. As Sarah stood there, surrounded by laughter and her children, the warmth of the sun washed over her. The memories kept alive, the stories shared, felt like tender roots anchoring them to the ground, reminding each of them that home was where their hearts intertwined. They had not just survived. They had transformed. Now, as they moved forward, there was no looking back. They knew that the strength of their bond would always guide them through life's storms. Don't let this transformation be unshared. You need to subscribe now to catch our next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support by hitting that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our community growing stronger. We want to hear from you. Comment below about your feelings toward this ending. Let your voice be part of our journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Thank you later.